Welcome to Tips from the Top with me, Jo Parry. Today, I've come to Shappendown Church of England Primary School in Cumbria. This is one of the top performing primary schools in the county. In this video, Lois Whitaker, head teacher, shares her top tips for successful team management. Listen, it's clear you have a great team here.
We definitely do.
How have you created this?
What we like to have is a very, very pleasant atmosphere between the staff, talk to each other with respect, have fun together, and then the children see this happening and they model their own behaviour and their happiness on what they pick up from the staff.
How do you manage delegation? How do you do that effectively?
I think at the beginning, when you start as a head teacher, you do tend to take on everything yourself, and one of the most valuable things you can learn is to start looking at your staff, looking at their strengths and distributing tasks and responsibilities and some of the credit as well to the rest of your staff.
What about that big thorny decision you've got to make as a school?
Well, we're very collegiate on any major decisions. Obviously, I will think through it first, but after that, we will very much throw discussion open, including teaching assistants, might add, as well, into discussions that we have, and that we may well take some time moving backwards and forwards on a decision, but at the end we will have made a decision that won't purely be mine, but will have been thought through by everybody, and therefore everybody owns it, and it has more effect.
What about praise? I struggle slightly with that because I'm naturally the person to say thank you, but sometimes that can feel as if you're saying thank you all the time and then becomes meaningless. How do you deal with that?
Well, one thing I heard years ago is the effectiveness of third-person praise. In other words, you go to somebody and say, I was told how brilliant you were the other day at the course that you were on, and the effectiveness of that third-person praise, I don't know why that works, but it works very, very well. I mean, I also do think it's important to remember to pick up on the little things and say thank you, not take things for granted that people are doing. Just a throwaway thank you at times can be very effective.
I know you're very good at noticing how your staff are, picking up when people aren't quite themselves.
Yes.
If you've got a member of staff who you feel is acting out of character, what sort of things would you do at that point?
I think I would let them know that I realise that things aren't as they usually are. And then if it is something practical that I can do, I'll do it. And what I try to be is be flexible when I can be, so when there is a principle where I can't move on, that's respected as well.
You're very visible as a head. What would your advice be to heads and deputies around the country?
Walk around your school, walk around it all the time, and you pick up far more than in a formal lesson observation.
And I think you're right, and I think if you only do it occasionally on an official basis, if you're in the back of the room, that actually creates an atmosphere, doesn't it?
My staff is so used to me being in the classroom that it hasn't got that impact.
I think you're right, I think you're so right. Lois, huge thanks, because there are some great tips in there, and I hope lots of people can take them on. I think point number one is communication. Communication is really key. Clarity of vision and your team knowing your vision is going to make life far simpler for you. Also, don't set up intentional conflict within your team. Look at your team players and know their skill sets and then use them appropriately. A football manager wouldn't have 11 strikers on their team. They know they need somebody to put the goals in, but they also need a great goalie and a solid defence. So think of your team like that. And finally, think of your role. You're a mentor, and you are there to look at people's skills and put them appropriately. But also, don't be threatened by a member of your team who maybe can do something better than you can. Use that, applaud that, and use it for the effectiveness of your team.